What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Who's the second guy? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Bianconeri Zone for another live show. It's a call-in show, so everybody can call in, as it was on Saturday evening. I think it was when we played Verona. It was Saturday evening, so you can call in if you want. But we're gonna talk about Del Piero's comments because he spoke to Sky Sport after the Monza Milan game. I think it was. Yeah, it was the Monza Milan game. So he spoke about that. Then we're going to talk about the media turning on Yildiz already. And also some comments that apparently a close friend to Allegri said also to Sky Sport, but then it got picked up by Sport as well. And even a couple of weeks ago, that potential friend, people call it a friend, spoke about Allegri. So we're gonna talk about all those things, but we'll start off with Del Piero. And before we do that, hit the like button. I'm gonna say it at the beginning, so you can hit the like button. If you rewatch, hit the like button. Let's get to at least 50 for this one. And also, you can call in by clicking the link in the chat or scanning the QR code how you want. You don't need to show your face, you can just speak. But let's start off with what Del Piero had to say. And he had quite a few things to say. I'm going to keep the last quote, the last thing he said, the way he wrapped up kind of his interview with Sky Sport, Sky Italia. I'm going to keep that until the end. So first he was asked about, they were talking about Allegri in general, ever since he actually came into the club. I think that was the main topic as of now, or that day. So they spoke about that, and he said last year he did not a good job, but a fantastic job or an excellent job, because he was heroic in creating an environment that could lead Juve back to the Champions League, considering everything that happened this year. He also deserves credit, like Yildiz and others who have stepped up. Now, I don't agree. I don't disagree with what he said because people are on the channel for a while. Last season, when everything occurred, the board got sacked. Basically, that was that happened as well. And then the investigations and all those things, and it was just piling on and piling on and piling on and points deduction. And we were not playing well as well. But I was like, do not sack Allegri at this moment in time, And why? Because no coach was ever gonna come in last season, mid-season, because there was a rumor. Remember, that Allegri wanted to leave. The season, like Allegri wanted to leave, and was John Alcon convinced him to stay and all those things. I was like, you need to stay because no coach is coming in and gonna take on this weird job at that moment in time. Confusing job, and is gonna do well. You just need somebody who's familiar with the club, with the players, and I was like, keep Allegri last season because it was a complete mess and nobody was gonna navigate the club between it. Through it. Excuse me. It was still poor. Like we played some awful football, and that you cannot deny. And the results were what they were. It was a bit all over the place, so you cannot deny that. However, it made a lot of sense last season to just keep Allegri in a job, and that's what we did. And I do think he deserves credit because the situation was dire. Like it was weird, even this season as well. It felt like it never was gonna stop. Points deduction, points back, points deducted again, points back, points deducted at the end of the season. It was kind of all over the place. So I agree with him with Del Piero. Allegri last season, he did an excellent job considering all the weird circumstances a normal football club is not gonna have, especially not mid-season. That's the key thing, mid-season. If things happen for football clubs, usually it's post-season or whatever. Everton this season might be an exception, but usually things happen, post-season. With us, it happened mid-season, and not once, excuse me, but a couple of times, and that was an issue. So I agree with him. I thought he did a good job last season to kind of steer the ship. That doesn't mean you should have not made another decision at the back end of that weird season. But it is what it is. It happened, so you need to accept that. Somebody who, again, if you're joining, I will bring you on in a minute. Let me. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, there's sound. What's your name? Sorry? Yeah, is it Aiden? Aiden. Okay, I'll type your name. I will bring you on in 1 second, right? Um, um, so that's what he said, first of all. The second quote he said, and then I will bring on somebody who's calling in. He said, in a situation where things are not going well, it's clear that Allegri has responsibilities, as does everyone from the start, from staff to the players. Some situations must change over time. If you play for Juve, you must improve and cannot be the same player as you were when you actually arrived. And that was, it wasn't a dig, but I think that's the big problem a lot of fans have. You know, certain players, they just look the same, they don't improve, and that's an issue because you need to improve. You know, if you don't improve 3 years into the job, it becomes problematic. It does, and actually, some players have regressed, and um, I think that's also where a lot of frustrations uh, comes in for a lot of people. Let me bring a caller in really quickly. Um, Hello, can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, you're on, so everybody can hear you now. So the
Okay.
caller's name is Aiden, right? Aiden. Um,
Yes.
I will ask you the question straight away because this is the topic again, and the topic, or like Del Piero's quote, main quote, will come out in a little bit. I will bring it up in a bit, and that was the big talking point. But do you, like, 3 years in the job? Because I'm gonna ask everybody who calls in this question. 3 years into the job, considering everything that happened at the club, you know, points deduction and all those things, because it is what it is. We cannot ignore that as well. Do you think there has been enough improvement to claim or to say there's a good base for Allegri to go another 2, 3 years with a contract extension and bring us back to, you know, consistently winning at the top?
I I don't like I've debated this with friends. Like I don't think there's been enough to see say get Allegri sacked per se, but
Okay.
not enough to get an extension either. It's kind of like it's kind of a mood point. And especially now. Um, well, actually, there were talks about him uh, being replaced at the end of the season, but is there any credibility to those rumors, or is that just speculation, like, as usual?
It's maybe at this moment in time it's more speculation because there's no real one source out there that's, you know, saying 100% this is gonna happen. So you might, I would agree it's more speculation. I think it's most of it is based on the feeling around the club. You know, it's 3 years in, and yes, we got more points on the board, but if you're actually being honest with yourself, or like you just look, is there much of a
Mhm.
big difference? I think that's where it all stems from. You know, that the media's like, there could be a change as well. Also, and that's what Tuto Sport was kind of saying as well. Motta kind of made it clear that he's ready for the next step, and Conte is still pushing to return. So that kind of adds to the media saying, you know what, there could be a change.
I thought there was a big change, not necessarily in how we played, but I thought the mentality for a long time this season. I thought that was that hugely improved until the last few games. I think that I feel like I was kind of led on there, to be honest.
I mean, a lot of people were kind of maybe potentially, um, how do I need to call it? Trick, you know, bamboozle, you know. I
Yeah, I was like I was kind of in love with the team, like probably the most attachment I had to a team since I know it sounds crazy, but like since 2018, it'd been a while.
That's been a
Just
while.
the way they were, I don't know. I thought the way they were, fighting. There were a few games like Verona at home, Frosinone away, Salernitana away, like these games where I thought, yes, it's like they clearly it wasn't as good of a team, but I thought, you know what, they have the spirit, they have the grinta, but sadly that kind of didn't prove to be the case.
I agree with that part. I said it when we were on the winning streak. I'm like, what I'll give Allegri, it looks like a team. It doesn't look like a good team on the eye, and I still had issues with in terms of I don't feel it's sustainable. However, I said, I'll give him credit. It looks like a group. It looks like a group of players all paddling in the same direction. No matter who it is, everybody at the same goal. So
Mm.
I'll give you that. I still wasn't really tricked full. Like I had more belief than at the start of the season in winning a title because for obvious reasons. However, now that everything is kind of falling apart, that was my biggest fear. That's where I was not certain. That's where I was questioning so many things, even when we won games. And now it's all falling apart, and we don't even look like the team. We just talked about. We look like a group of players who accepted that this is it, this is our max, and then a coach who also is looking at it and he's like, I'm not really sure how can I turn this around. And I think that Udinese game, that second half with the subs, kind of summed it up. It looked a bit desperate, it looked a bit chaotic, a bit all over the place, and I think it was very clear that at that point, the streak is obviously done, but worse times are ahead. And with worse times, I mean we're gonna lose a couple of games from now until the end of the season,
Harder
most
harder
likely.
games, right?
Sorry.
Harder games, right?
Yeah,
Coming
like
up.
the harder games are coming up, but we had those games, some of them at home, in the first part of the season, and we dealt with them. So what I won't accept from now on, I don't know if you agree, is there needs to be a reaction, and that like not just Allegri players wise, because players I like have not played well, and players Allegri puts a lot of faith in have also not played well recently. I look at a Danilo,
Mm.
I look at a Rabiot, they've not been playing well. So these players as well need to again step up. They need to step up from now, like because the season is quote unquote over, but it's not over. If that makes sense, like for fans looking at it, because Frosinone, we play for. I don't know where you're from, by the way. Are you from the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay, so it's gonna be a very early kickoff for
Yeah.
you, but
I feel even worse for the West Coast guys.
yeah, like
I'm at least on the East Coast, so it's 6:30 in the
six.
morning.
Yeah, so how do you get up for if you're gonna watch? How do you get up for that game, knowing the situation we're in? The season kind of over, but it's not over. How do you, as a fan, really get up in terms of I'm gonna enjoy watching this?
I think for that one, it's like that could be, and that I don't want to jinx it, but I think that's going to be our first win in a month since the Lecce game. Like they have the worst defense in the league, I think, or the second worst, something like that. So they're just, it's not like Udinese who, might try to just park the bus after, because we couldn't break them down. But I don't think Frosinone are that type of team. So I feel like we can probably cut them open a few times. Like we should win that game without question, in my opinion.
We should
But
we should win that game. I think we're gonna win that game. Like you said, if you don't beat Frosinone, I'm gonna check because you said they have the worst defense. Could be, but well, they have they conceded 52 goals and Salernitana 51. So they do have the worst defense. They
oh wow.
compared to others, they do score a lot of goals, like 32.
Hmm.
Lazio have only 29, and they're sitting at 8. So that's kind of their thing, I think.
I think their away record is I think one of the worst in the league as well.
That could be the case. It could be the case that they don't look good. Frosinone, they're not really looking good. And somebody else who jumped in, I think it's Sergio. I will bring you on in a bit. So stay tuned. But I do agree. But where did it all go wrong? Can you pinpoint that?
Where it all went wrong.
Yeah, because today, there was an article on Tuttosport saying it kind of fell apart completely after Inter. I thought it was Empoli. I thought that was too big of a bad result ahead of that big game, in my opinion.
I think if we had, say, Udinese or Verona right after Empoli, we might have bounced back, um, just because like we'd had some results like Genoa away where we drew, and then Frosinone away we bounced back. But I think Inter was too much of a task, and we really played poorly that game despite the scoreline. So I feel like two bad results in a row was what was ultimately the catalyst for our recent downfall. Um, it was, not getting that win in what, 3 weeks, and then Udinese came up, and then you know we lose that game, and I think it did. I think the Inter game kind of. I think that was the one for me, just because, like I said, we'd had some bad results before, but we'd won immediately the game after. I think this was the first time we failed to win two in a row. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I saw like the last question before I bring the next one in. I saw a stat today that it's only this. Well, it's been a while since we conceded 2 goals. We did it twice this season, and it was a while. And I saw another stat saying that points wise, we're up there with the 2000 when we made the Champions League final. That type of season. Does the eye test match that? Does the eye
not
test
really. I mean,
match
I mean,
the Champions League final team?
I mean, I was kind of young back then, so it's hard to remember specific games. But from what I remember, like we played a lot better.
We did, and I'll say something else before we really wrap it up for the next one.
Mhm.
Points tally wise, Pirlo still has the highest ever since Allegri returned. Isn't that? Is it the league? Like, what is it? Because at the end of the day, we win games, but I when we win games, but they don't lead up to winning a trophy, I don't even know how to put it, to be honest, because I look at it and I'm like, we won a lot of games, but I have a burning feeling inside of me that it's not going to be enough long term to win trophies. And on top of that, the players Allegri needs, we're not going to get. So, with that being said, if you need to make the decision, 3 year new deal, are you going to say yes or no? Because that's basically the burning question now.
I would not go for a new deal personally. I think hopefully, ideally, we win the Coppa Italia this year, and it's like when Buffon got his send off with his last game being the
Yeah.
the Coppa Italia win in a few years back, and it would be the same thing here for Allegri this time.
It would maybe that's what he needs before he can say goodbye. Win the trophy and then leave.
It
But
would be
let's
it
see.
would be a fitting ending, winning a trophy, and
Well,
that would be
he
that would
needs
be
it.
great.
He needs it. Like he definitely needs to win it. That's for sure. Um, Thanks for calling in. I'm gonna bring in the next one first, and then
Mhm.
there's somebody else join. And then I will bring him in as well.
Mhm.
But thanks for
Thanks
what?
for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for calling in. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna bring in first Sergio. It's Sergio, right? Okay. Um, I did put a quote out on the screen from Del Piero saying that if I can decide one day, because he was asked, will you keep Allegri or will you let him go? And he said, if I can decide one day, I will tell you something. I will give you an answer. For now, I can't say whether he will leave or stay, or if I would choose basically he needs to leave or stay. When I saw that, I think my first reaction was because I rewatched it. I thought it was a fake quote, so I rewinded it when I was back from work, and he said that, and I was like, he just doesn't want to say it's still not good enough and we need to make a change. Do you agree, or are you like, no, he's actually very doubtful about Allegri because he praised Allegri earlier on in the same interview, by the way.
No, I think that speaks volumes. Honestly, um, it goes back to the point where we have no consistency, but then we start seeing some type of consistency beginning of the season. Obviously, you know, anybody with common sense will praise somebody that brings consistency to the team. But I think everything went down the hill, and I feel like Juventus put Allegri as a band aid. Like all the problems were never fixed. They just put him as a band aid, and then Empoli came. The Empoli game came about, and that's when everybody found out that that was just about like a band aid. Like we start seeing the same things we saw last season, the same creativity, attacking, and all these other problems we start seeing. Um, and I feel like the way Del Piero puts it out to be, he feels the same way as most of us do. There needs to be a change, an internal change. That's my opinion on it.
Like you say internal change, and like the big, okay, so the big debate is it the players or is it Allegri, and I think it's a mix of both. However, I've always said it's much easier to change one person than 15. And I say 15 because I think a lot of people do not rate big part of the team. However, like I said earlier or a second ago, one change is much easier than 15 changes. Now, 3 years into the job, my biggest issue is there's no style of play. Forget about the points because the points they don't lead up to a title. So I'm like, oh, good, you win games. However, progression wise, I remember when he first joined, and I don't really see much of a difference. I still see the same issues in terms of certain group of players keep struggling, and I'm gonna say that's the front line. And where I'll give him some leeway is that midfield is probably not fantastic. However, it's still not as poor as many, tend to, make sound like the way certain people's and I'm not the biggest Locatelli fan, but the way certain people talk about Locatelli, I'm like, okay, I'm not the biggest fan, but he's also not that poor, if that makes sense. And he made the decision to keep McKennie and play that in that position. He wanted Rabiot to stay, so he makes certain decisions, and then when it doesn't work, Kostic, for example, I cannot sit here and say it's all on the players because when Kostic plays bad for a couple of games, he doesn't pick himself. Like those are issues where I cannot look past. Does he need quality? Yes. Like the next coach needs quality. However, do you think if he's gonna get, and I'm gonna make this up, um, Cope Miners or a player like Surukov, or he's getting Sule back, do you think that's the quality Allegri needs now to even like perform even better? Because that's the biggest question.
I mean, man, it's such a broad question because I mean, yeah, it'll definitely help the team, but it just goes back to the point where I feel like Allegri is playing not the football that we need. Why was he such a great manager a couple years ago, several years ago? Well, because he was playing the football to that current date. But in today's day, he's not playing the football that the team needs. I mean, he's playing players that are not even supposed to be playing on that position, and he's expecting things from them. Um, he's been playing players like Alexandro. Yes, he was a great player 10 years ago. Not anymore. I don't understand why he keeps playing the players that were good back in the day. And that's a huge problem. He just doesn't see that. And I feel like you can bring like when he brought Ronaldo in, like did that change a lot of things? I mean, yeah, we were way better because a player from his caliber will change a lot of things, but it wasn't like we were seeing a huge change. We never won a Champions League, and I think having a player of his caliber and having all the players, play in that chemistry that we used to be able to play in. we would have easily won Champions League. I mean, we won the Italian, we won the league. So it's like, I mean, I feel like he's just playing back on the days from before, and you can't be doing that in today's day. I feel like there's a lot of things that need to change, and yeah, you're right. I mean, for example, Kostic, I had a lot of faith in the guy because I watched the Europa League, and the things he was doing were great, and I was like, man, this guy can definitely create several opportunities for the team. Like this guy, he will. But then you see him play here, he cannot even get past his man. He can't. Don't ask me why. I don't know what's wrong, but he just can't. But then you saw him play at Frankfurt, bro. The guy was really solid player. So it just goes back to that. And I mean, playing. I mean, he's paying players like Rabiot like 9 million euros, and it's like, bro, this guy is not nine. He's not worth 9 million euros the way he plays.
I
Like it's just two at most. Two at most. Like I would not pay that guy like past 2 million.
I agree. By the way, like the Rabiot one is an interesting one because uh like a lot of players, a lot of people, fans believe that he is that good, or he is the best player in the squad, the best midfielder. When people say, "Oh, he's the best midfielder," I'm like, nobody really rates the midfield, so I'm not even sure what that means. Um, it would be more believable if people said, "You know what, Rabiot is the best player in the squad." Even if that's not true, I would be like, "Okay, you think that," but if you think he's the best out of a quote unquote poor department, then I cannot really run with it. I've made a stupid, or like a silly comparison. Like if Kroos, and it's not gonna happen, but if Kroos is available, by the way, and you need to give one player on a free agent basis 9 million euros, I think it's very easy which player you're gonna choose. And I know Kroos is much older. However, I think you can get much more out of a player like Kroos on a free agent than Rabiot for the next 3 years. I also don't like that we are sitting here doing 1 year deals, and also on top of that, he is kind of dictating how it's gonna go. I'm gonna wait until the end of the season. We kind of know how the season is gonna end. There's only one way it should be going. You're just gonna qualify for the Champions League, and if you win the Coppa Italia, yes or no, I don't think that's gonna make much of a difference in terms of signing a new deal. So I don't like that situation as well. I don't like that. I don't like that a player with, how do you want to say, like, with his status, and with status I mean he's not world class or whatever, is kind of demanding, or like kind of setting the base of, okay, this is what's gonna happen. I'm not a big fan of it. And for Kostic, like you said, at Frankfurt he was like, he won a Europa League player of the year that season. Like he was instrumental to Frankfurt actually winning that trophy. Um, when he came in, I know what he was, Kostic. He's just gonna get you crosses, and he's gonna get you assists. He did that last season. This season, he's not doing that. So, like you said, I'm not sure how Allegri's sitting there and he's like, "This is good." When I know for a fact he's not playing well, when you need to use work rate to defend a player, then I know it's not going well. If you need to do that for a month, a player going, through a bad patch, I can deal with it. But if that's the main point, 6 months in a season or 5 months in a season, I know that player is playing poorly, and that's coaching, whatever. It is coaching because he keeps playing him and he refuses to make tweaks. And last one before I bring the next one up, tactical changes. That's a big topic. He tried to do that for 10 minutes against Verona. And then post game, he said, tactical formations, tactical things, it doesn't really matter. We just need to be a team and work hard. And I'm like, that's not really true. Like, I'm not a coach, but we all probably play football at a lower level, maybe. Tactical things, they do matter, and especially with the right personnel. So, isn't that also a thing the club should be looking at in terms of, yes, maybe this is not the best squad, but you're not really flexible with it. because you have Yildiz popping off, but you're refusing to actually try to use all three of them in that formation, like literally refusing. Do you not think that should be the biggest warning sign for the club moving forward?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I mean, it goes back to like what I was saying before. This guy is playing like he's playing players that are not even supposed to be playing in those positions, and he just I don't know what he expects from them. I really don't. I mean, somebody like he has an extremely talented player, but he's not giving the results that he should be in a striker position. But I totally understand that because a player that plays a wing that creates chances that creates that off balance. That's what he does. He creates that. But you can't put a player as a striker and create off balance. Like it's really hard. So to me, like him not being able to use all his resources, with all honesty, if I'm not a coach either, but if I had the chance to reorganize the squad, I would not even be playing Yildiz in striker position. I would maybe put him like a false nine, put him a little bit lower. He has that flaw. He has that speed where he can maneuver around players. We don't have that. There's no and the other player that was close to that was Chiesa, but he's not doing it the best this season.
Yep.
But Gillis is doing that. He's popping up for us, and I think they shouldn't even. I mean, they should if they want us to become the team we were before, they need to do a change. They need to do an internal change, whether it's. I believe it's also a mix between players, and I won't lay everything down on Allegri because it's not only his fault.
Yep.
But I will say that there has to be players that either they're going to lower their salaries or they have to be gone. They're not in the team anymore. And Allegri, I wouldn't pay him. Also, I would not pay him 9 million because he's not putting the results of a $9 million euro manager. That's just not how I see it. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely give another manager the opportunity to put this team where it needs to be.
Uh, I agree. And then we'll wrap it up because people think, and that's the last question for you. But when people say, like you say, where this team needs to be, I'm realistic that like the team needs to win. Period. It's Juve. That's fine. But I'm realistic to say, okay, Inter are better at this moment in time. However, if you're not winning, but you're trying to build and trying to get closer to Inter, I think the main thing is have a clear identity that's sustainable, and that's the question to wrap it up. How like what you see now? Can you say even for 50% it is sustainable long term? Because if you need to pick something out of this team now that you can say that's sustainable long term, what would it be?
Can you repeat that question again, please?
If you need to pick up one thing, and let's say you can say like if you need to choose one thing that you can say okay, this is sustainable long term, for example, defensively solid, I'm making something up. Do you see anything in this side that you can say okay, this is sustainable, we can build on this for the next 2 3 years so we can go back to the top and actually beat Inter?
That's a really hard question because that's something we've been lacking. That one thing where we can grab, that thing where we can like build around. Um, I mean, you can build around a player, you can build around a manager, you can build around all things. But I feel like the first thing we should do is, like I said before, get rid of the players that are not willing. Well, first off, they're not showing any results and still want to be paid out of pocket wages, and I think Allegri has to leave. He has been on the on and off for several years, and he's shown what he's done. And yeah, he was a great one, like maybe 7 years ago, but in today's football, he's just not. I don't think he's done anything outstanding. Outstanding. Yeah, he brought us up to being top four, but that's a goal for a mid-table team or a
Yeah.
lower table team. We're not a mid-table team. We won so many titles. Like this is not a mid-table team, and that should not be our goal. And right now, we don't even have any goals to grab ourselves onto. We don't have the champions because we're not even playing it. Maybe like Coppa Italia, but I mean, I don't think that's. I sincerely don't think that's like a grabbable goal. And what's our goal? Stay in top four. I mean, man, if you end the season out of top four, that has to be like a world record. That has to be like written on the books because it's like that would be the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. But again, I feel like starting off, get rid of the players that don't want to lower their wages and not doing the results they're supposed to, and just get rid of Allegri. I mean, I had faith in the guy, but it just shows back again this season that hasn't been what we need.
I agree. I agree with that. I actually fully agree with that because I've said it so many times as well. Um, Thanks, Sergio. Thanks for calling in. Where are you from, by the way?
I am from the USA.
Okay, so everybody was calling in today. So good luck to you on Sunday, waking up early to watch Frosinone. I think.
Yep, 5:30.
Oh my God, it's even worse. Like it's even
Yep.
worse. Like some have 6:30. It's 12:30 for me, and I already think it's a bad hour on a Sunday. But for you guys, it's even worse. So I feel for you. But thanks for calling in, man. Hopefully, speak to you soon.
Well, thank you.
Okay. So that was what I can call in if you want. You can call, but I'm gonna bring in the next one. You can come in the quote unquote green room, so I can bring you in whatever, and nobody hears you because I can mute you. But the next one is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So the next one is Bashar. Right. It's Bashar.
Yeah, Bashar. Yeah,
Bashar.
exactly.
Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Syria, but I'm living in Germany.
Oh,
So
okay.
Germany, yeah.
So
Okay.
a normal hour for you on Sunday. So
Yeah,
12:30.
yeah.
Um,
30.
I'm
But
gonna.
it's still suffering. It's still a suffer watching this style of football, this style of teams.
I
But we love Juve. We gotta do it.
yeah. I like I come. People. Somebody asked me um a couple of weeks ago. Somebody said how can you get so rattled or get so angry? Stop watching. I'm like I can't. If people are on this channel, I do preseason games. Because I just enjoy. Um, Watching the games. I actually enjoy watching the games. So
Yeah,
that's kind of it. But um, kind of picking off where Sergio left off, basically, and we were talking about formation, and we were talking, excuse me, about players and style. Today, Corriere dello Sport put something out. And I didn't like where this is heading, to be honest. But Corriere dello Sport, excuse me, put out a quick article, like not a lengthy one, but like a quick opinion piece on Yildiz, saying that lately he's not playing well. He only has 11 shots, and Chiesa has 40. Chiesa has double the minutes, something like that. And they were kind of suggesting that, yeah, Yildiz is a good player, but he's not very direct, and he's not gonna be very involved, in front of goal. And I was like, there's a little narrative being born, because if you just look up Yildiz heat map, and I'm not saying you need to do that because I think it's very obvious. He doesn't play close to goal, and I'm not suggesting that he needs to do that, by the way, because I think he's very good between the lines. I think it would be better if he not just had Vlahovic, but also had a very good winger slash Chiesa coming in, and actually dragging players with him. However, how do you view Yildiz? Because lately, the last couple of games, and I've said it, he will have bad games, but I don't think he's playing badly. It's just the goals are not there. And usually, like the first couple of games, he was scoring goals. Do you actually think he's playing poorly, or do you think it's not really working for Chiesa? Because that's what the media is kind of suggesting the last 2 weeks.
well, to be honest, I think I cannot rate any player, and especially of players who play up in offense under Allegri. Well, because two things: strikers suffer from his formation, from his plan, from his style of football. you can bring the best strikers in the world, and I'm not saying Yildiz is a striker, he's not, but I'm just giving an example. You can bring in the best strikers in the world, and they're not gonna perform well under Allegri. It's just a simple fact, because when you look at Haaland is now like the number one striker in the world. He's a machine. He's everything you want. Haaland misses so many chances and scores. He scores more than he misses, but he does miss many chances. Yeah. So strikers do not get chances at Juve. I mean, you see Vlahovic running up in the midfield, just trying to press like randomly, high press without any benefits, without anything. Uh, you cannot. That's why you cannot rate any player under Allegri, especially in the offense. The thing is, you cannot also rate youngsters, because even at his best days, he's a club legend. He was one of the best coaches ever to take on Juve. But even in his best days, improving youngsters or improving and bringing the best out of players wasn't his strength, to be honest. I mean, you give him good players, you give him ready players, you give him Pogba, Pirlo, Marquisio, Vidal, Tevez. You give him a defense like Chiellini, Barzali, Bonucci. Uh, he does perform well. He does perform well, despite doing some bad things sometimes. Yeah, I remember those Champions League nights. But to be honest, yeah, I cannot pin the blame on Yildiz, uh, like the Italian press is doing. No.
But, yeah, like improve. You said improving players, and that's a big talking point, because we talk about youngsters and people are saying, oh, he brought in Yildiz into the team, and all those things. And Yildiz came into the team because we had a lot of injuries. I'll give Yildiz a lot of credit, because he took the opportunity and he never looked back, in my opinion. And now when he's on the starting 11, I don't think many fans are like, oh my god, what are you doing? I think a lot of fans are like, yeah, fair. He can start. I think he's ready. He still has a lot of room to improve. I think that's very obvious. That's clear. However, that's normal. Like, he's still extremely young, so I think everybody can live with that as well. But improving players, that's my biggest point. When I say improving players, and people say, "Oh, look at Danilo, look at Rabiot," I'm like, I don't think he improved Danilo, but like those are okay. When I say the wrong players, it doesn't mean like I'm pissed that if these players are actually improving, it's not a good thing. However, they're 28, they're 32, whatever. How much improvement is there? I think like Danilo hit the ceiling. It is what it is. Rabiot, he has not much to improve anymore. I think this is who Rabiot is. It's Vlahovic who needs to improve. It's obviously Yildiz, but Junior, Cambiaso, like those are the players that need to improve. Chiesa, is he 26, 27? Will he be 27 now? I think people do treat
I
him
think
like
so.
he's a kid.
I
He's
think
not a
so.
kid anymore. When I
No.
talk about Chiesa, he needs to do better himself in certain situations.
Of
I'm not gonna be
course.
blind to
Of
that.
course.
However, when I talk about improvement about Chiesa, I'm like putting him in the right position to actually be consistently good. And he is having chances. He gets chances in this formation, by the way. Like, I'm not saying that. However, if you look at Chiesa, do you feel like we are getting the best out of it, and he's out there having fun? Do you have that feeling? You know,
Well, to be honest, like, no. Here's the thing. After the injury, Chiesa uh, has had a bit of a bad performance, let's
yeah,
say, and he's been. I think it's not only technical; it's mental. I mean, he's not fully well there. He's not. He's. I think he's being too much afraid of being injured. I remember. Oh, am I here? Yeah. Uh, I remember under Pirlo, he was he wasn't. I mean, Chiesa performed very well, but he's not the best technically wise. But he just he just goes for it. I mean, he's not afraid. He goes for it. He goes through three players, three defenders. He's not afraid of being tackled. That's what made him like really strong. I don't think that version of Chiesa is back, but also you need to consider the fact that Chiesa is not a second striker. Chiesa is not a second striker. Chiesa is a player who strives on the wing, and he did well both on the right and the left, but he's not a second striker. I mean that I mean a player who's usually adapted to playing on the wing cannot easily just like go. I mean, he has freedom to play on the wings sometimes with us, but I mean, it's not full. It's not giving him his full potential. And what you said about improving players, I agree 100%. Uh, you mean he's been improving the players who have reached their limit?
Yep.
Who, I mean, Yildiz is the one who needs improving. Illing Jr. is the one who needs improving. Chiesa is like the one who needs to be. Vlahovic is also. He's not giving those players the best, let's say, atmosphere to improve themselves. Even when he gives Illing sometimes chances, he sometimes plays him on the left and sometimes puts him as a mezzala. I mean, come on, just play the guy on the wing. It's just his position. Stop messing around with positions. Locatelli. Locatelli is a big point for me. Locatelli, we all remember Locatelli before Juve with Sassuolo with the national team. He did perform well. I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't a top player, let's say a top tier player, but he did perform very well. But Locatelli is not a regista. Locatelli never played as a regista with Sassuolo or the national team. He changed his position entirely. He's obviously not comfortable playing the regista role. It's been 2 years and he's playing the regista role with us. I mean, for some of these players, it's career suicide staying with us. Seriously. I mean, for Vlahovic, it's career suicide to stay with us. I think he would have shined in any other team. I don't know what to say anymore. I mean,
The
it's
the
really
Loc-
frustrating.
the Locatelli one is a good point, and people who are waiting, I will bring you on in a minute, because there's still two people waiting. Thanks, by the way. But the Locatelli one is a good point, because can he play this position? Like the moment after, was it? I don't know who Italy played. I think after they beat Ukraine and they qualified, I think it was, or the game before, Locatelli said, "I can play this position, and I want to show I can actually grab this position." He has not shown that. He's gotten better. However, I still think we waste him in that position. I was watching. I was at work during the break, and I was watching a 20-minute compilation of Locatelli at Sassuolo, and I was like, "That's the Locatelli I want to see," because he can play. He can play like the passes, the movement, carrying the ball as well. He was just extremely good. Also defensively, surprisingly. When I
Yeah.
look at him now, and he plays a position where he doesn't shine. I get that position, but Pjanic played that position, and it looked natural. It looked very good. It doesn't look like that for Locatelli. So I do agree with but that's the decision he made. The junior one as well. I've said it so many times. He's a winger playing him on the wing. But we play 3-5-2. It's difficult. He made his bet. And he said this is what I'm gonna do. And even if you play Junior over Kostic, which I think he should, I think he deserves a fair shot. It's still not gonna be the Junior you want to see. Because it's still gonna be defensive minded. So it's tricky for certain players in this team. It really is tricky for certain players in this team. And that's why I'm like, we need a change. And again, when I say we need a change, with a change, I mean, you know what it is? Really quickly, the last one, because I also don't think it's fair. Like, people who want Allegri in can say it's not fair that you want him out. And I'm like, okay, that's your opinion. I completely disagree, but it's your opinion. But they also want to flip it to, okay, if Allegri is out, the next one who comes in needs to win. But at the same time, they're saying this team is not good enough to win. I think even Allegri fans, non-Allegri fans, are saying this team is not good enough to win immediately. However, I think the big sticking point is, and I'm not sure if that's for you because that's my question. Do you want to move on from Allegri because you think what you have seen in these last 3 years is not good enough to build on? Forget about the points and winning games. Just in general, the base is not good enough to build on, considering we're being linked with Colt Miners, Surukov, Sule coming back, these type of players. That's my biggest point at this moment in time.
Yeah, well, like I've been saying, he's not the coach to. Forgive me, I'm forgetting to say so much stuff because I have so much in my mind and I just want to vent, you know. But as I was saying, Allegri is not the man to improve youngsters, and we've been, like you said, we've been linked to youngsters. So I mean, it's obvious he's not the good fit that's going to take us to the next level when with the players that we're linked with. Also, something with him, even if we kept on winning, even if we won against Empoli, and with some luck we drew against Inter, and I mean, like kept competing until the last moment, we're gonna get exposed the next season in the Champions League. With this team, with Allegri, we're gonna get really exposed, like real bad. Like I'm talking, like the time we lost 3-1 to Maccabi, like the time we were 4-1 down against Benfica.
Yep.
We're gonna get exposed the next season. He's not the man. I mean, with all due respect, I'm gonna keep it respectful, and I'm not gonna and I'm not gonna like insult him or anything. With all, I mean, the most respectful thing I can say is that he's not the man for this stage, for this phase of the club. He's 100% not the man for this stage.
Okay, I do like I do agree in terms of like we're gonna face better teams in the Champions League, so we're gonna lose games. It's only fair to say, but I see your point that it's gonna look worse than it should be. We shouldn't be 4-1 down to Benfica. We shouldn't be losing to Maccabi. Like these things should not be happening because the squad was not great, but it wasn't that poor compared to the other teams. Like that was a very worry, like that was a red light. Like when those results happen, all red lights should be going off at the club because yes, we're not going to win the Champions League, but that's
Of course.
really unacceptable. So I
Yeah.
get your point.
I just want to add a great example. It's just the Inter game, the last Inter game. We looked like little kids in front of Inter players. That's how we're gonna look in the Champions League going on the next season if we stayed with him.
I agree. Thanks, Bashar. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
I have two other people's waiting. I'm gonna
Yeah,
do this
sure.
show once a week. I'm gonna try so everybody can call in again, whatever. But thanks, man. Thanks. That was a good chat.
Was a pleasure to come on. Yeah,
See ya. Ciao.
yeah. But
Let me see. The next one that I unmuted. What's your name? Is it Anas? No. Okay. Hello. I can hear you. What's your name? Are you Anas? No. Okay, you're Anas. I thought I thought it was the other caller. The other caller is not responding, but I will bring you on first then. Same question. Or like not maybe not the same question. The talks about, and I did a video on that. I'm gonna release it tomorrow. There was a news report out today that Juntili held talks with Allegri on Sunday, and the outcome of the talk was basically that there are 2 points why we're in this situation at this moment in time. One, after Inter, the players had a mental breakdown basically, and two, and that I thought was funny, is that the players were playing so well. Now it's just back to reality, which I could accept if you wouldn't have lost points against Verona, Empoli, and Udinese. I could have accepted that. But when you link that to those teams dropping points, I'm like, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy it. So we cannot be poor because we were better, we were good previously. What is the biggest reason that we are? When I say this situation, we're still second, whatever. However, this last 4 weeks, 3 weeks, have been a complete disaster. And not just style of play, but just looking at those players out there, they look deflated, they look completely lost. How can that bubble basically pop in 2 weeks, basically in 1 week, Empoli and Inter? Like, what is the biggest reason? Yeah. Oh wait, excuse me. People cannot hear you. Now they can. You can go again. Sorry, people.
Can they hear me now?
Yeah. Now you're good.
Okay, good. Yeah, what I was saying, basically about the team overall, like it's from the Empoli game that everything started to go wrong. Like before that, it wasn't sustainable. Like that's what I'm saying all the time. Like the play style, everything, it's gonna come to an end. Like on this run, like it was better than last year because that run was more fluky than this year. Like the 8 matches we didn't concede any goal. Like the 8 matches on clean sheet.
Yeah.
Those 8 matches were kind of fluky at best. Now the previous this run this year was a bit better, but the problem with it still is the play style isn't sustainable, and it will come a time where it will all fall off. And we saw that. I mean, from the Empoli game basically. And I don't know what Twitter sport are they on. I think what they're trying to say is the players overlooked themselves, like, oh, now we are on a great run and we should be all good and relaxed. And then when reality hits, what happened, like I said, in the Empoli game, um, was drew, and then they went to Inter deflated. They lost, and then Udinese, and now Verona. Like all of these matches, that's basically the reflection of Allegri and how he deals with this team. Like I get it, I'll give him credit that he made the team a bit better in terms of mentality and everything. But at the end of the day, it all fell off. Like he isn't the man to lead this team, basically. Like that's what I'm basically saying. Like he can't lead the team. Like he can't rebuild the team anymore. Like he isn't sustainable if you want to rebuild the team. Like I think this is even his last job as a manager. Like I don't
Ooh,
see any other club
that's a
will
hot take.
accept him as a manager.
That's a hot take.
You
When
know?
you say he can lead the team, what do you mean with can lead? Because people think, or like not people think, people also have an opinion that this is leading the team in a good way because he's picking up the points and he's getting the max out of the players, which I think is in his own way. I agree, he's getting the max out of this team in his own way. But my counterpoint is that we can still finish top four, in my opinion, and get more out of certain players, just in general. And when you say cannot lead the team, that's where I come into play, or when my opinion comes into play. I don't think he can lead the team, like you said, moving forward in terms of just a clear identity. When I watch Atalanta, I see what they were gonna do. When I watch Inter, I see what they want to do. Bologna, same. Liverpool, City, Arsenal. Like by Leverkusen this season. Even Girona to that extent, by the way. But I can see, okay, that's what they want to do. When I watch Juve, if you let a person who never watched Juve play, who watches football, and you let him watch a Juve game, and you ask him post game, what do you think our style of play is? What do you think he's gonna say? Because I have no real answer on that question, to be honest. Do you have one? Because is it really counterattacking? Is it really playing down the wing at times? Like even that, I think it's not really a thing at this moment in time.
Well, you can say like in the first matches of the season, especially with the Udinese match, like we also have the team like performed well and everything against the team. There was some idea, but like you said, after now, that's what I think too. After the Sassuolo game, Allegri said, "Now we're gonna return to our old ways and just like be a hard team to beat and just nick it out at the end, like depending on individual, relying on individual performances." And also with, like you said, about other teams, like you can see the ideas on the pitch, rather like you said, City, Liverpool, Girona, Leverkusen. But for us, there's no idea on the pitch. Like even other teams that play bad, you can kind of see an idea, like even for Milan, who are playing bad this year, I could see there's something there at least. I know like Pioli is leaving, but there is somewhat of an idea. For us, there's nothing. Like it's just relying on individual performances across the ball. And yeah, that's basically our play style. Like there's no counter-attacking. There's somewhat. Some people claim there's somewhat of counter-attacking, but I don't really see it since our wing backs are, I mean, kind of slow, like especially with Kostic. Like he can't defend for God's sake. Like even attacking or defense, like he's just a readable player. Like he's so limited. Like he just cross it and that's it. With Cambiaso, maybe he's more creative, but then again, like I don't think he's still suited for like a counter-attacking team. Like we have the potential to be a counter-attacking team, but Allegri is not implementing that play style basically, which I really don't know what to say more about Allegri. Like, yeah, he can't basically have any play style. Like, I really do think, like you said, he does need Pogba, Vidal, Pirlo, all these players to just win games basically and compete for titles. Other than that, I don't see really any way that this man will lead us in the long term. Because that's what happening now is basically was the short term, like just short term solutions. That's what Allegri is trying to do, not long term. And like I see also the between Gentili and Allegri, there's somewhat of like different ideas. Like Gentili is trying to implement like, oh, this club is youthful now. I'm gonna do a transition period, whereas Allegri is somewhat playing the young players, but also like he's hesitant and like I don't want to play young players, but I'm forced to. Like I think Allegri is forced to play the young players, like especially like you said with Illing Jr. Like he plays him on the right now against Udinese. So yeah, that's
The
basically about it.
the Juntuli one was my follow-up question before I bring the next one. And also R&B comes. Where are you from? Because I thought you were from the UK, and you said you're gonna wake up at 5:30 to watch a Frosinone game. Um, you got me confused there. Also, people do hit the like button as well. But my last question for you is because you said Juntuli. How much trust do you have in Juntuli? Because me personally, I said I'll give him 2 full summers, not to say get him out, but before I can make my mind up. Because last summer it didn't count for me. This summer, if you get back into the Champions League, you're still not getting that Champions League money until next summer. You know, so that's why I said I'll give him 2 full summers to see, excuse me, um, if he's doing a good job, if he has a clear direction. But I thought last summer was critical in coaching decision, but he came in very late, so I kind of understood that he could not have made that decision. But this summer is gonna be key. If if he wants to revamp the team um, completely, then this summer for him is so important as well. Because if you extend Allegri for the next 2 years, or 1 year, whatever, and you're gonna go ahead with him for the next 2 seasons, you kind of tie your future a little bit to that. I'm not saying he's gonna get sacked if it completely collapsed, but that's kind of you saying, okay, this is it. This is my Juve I want to build with Allegri, and you kind of need to ride with it. So what do you think Juntali is going to do? That's, everybody is um, guessing and whatever, but what do you think um, he's going to make? The decision he's going to make. What do you think the decision he's going to make?
with the decisions he's gonna make, basically, like we all know about Juntili, that he makes these unknown signings, basically. Like he just a player pop out of nowhere and just like never heard of him. That's what Juntili basically does with his policy, transfer policy. Well, like I said, like I think, like you said, we can't judge him from past summer, and this summer is quite. We can, like I said, judge him if this summer, like he has to nail it, nail every single transfer they're gonna make because, like you said, the money is limited. There's not gonna be a lot of players that wanna come to Juventus. Gonna be all unknown players, and with Allegri at the helm, I don't know how will that work with Allegri because, like I said, I view him that he will like leave the club at the end of the season. Like I don't think he will handle any of these things going on at the club. Like he isn't built for rebuilding this team. And with Juntoli, I really hope that he nails every unknown transfer he will make. Because, like you said, with Alcaraz, he just popped out of nowhere. The other Montenegrin player that is for the under 19, um, I'm not sure, but I just want Gentili to nail every transfer on the head and just not sack, just basically, I don't know how to say it more, just basically build a team from start to finish and not with a manager like Allegri.
I think yeah, like that's why I said it's a big summer. Um, Thanks for coming on, Anas, again. It's nice having you on again. This time, I think I pronounced your name correctly, right?
Yeah, pronouncing it more correctly now.
I didn't hear it the first. I
Okay,
thought it was Anas, but thanks for coming on, my guy. And speak
okay,
to you soon again.
okay, okay, ciao.
Ciao. There's still one person waiting, but oh, you're the next caller. You're on mute. Um, so you okay? You okay? You're not on mute. Let me bring you in on the stream really quickly. Um, what's your name? Le- Leon. Leon
Liam. Yeah.
with an M. So Leon.
Liam, yeah.
Okay. So the next caller is Liam. I'm gonna say you're from the U.S. as well. I think.
I'm from Canada.
Okay. It's almost like was
Almost,
close.
almost.
Almost. Um, Same question for you because I'm gonna ask everybody at this point until we have something else to talk about, maybe the Coppa Italia soon. Because I don't know your opinion, I cannot recall your opinion. What do you make of the entire situation? 3 years into the job and a big decision at the end of the season. I think. What decision will you make? Because maybe you're like, no, keep Allegri. He is the guy.
No, I mean, I've always wanted Allegri out just because of the style he plays, and I think a lot of Juventini are with me on that. But at the same time, I get why they've kept him so far. Okay, you're going through stuff with the court cases. You're the man who has the mentality to take the flack and lead the team while the financial situation is not good. But if they're a serious team, they got to get him out just because of the style he plays. And I think all the people you've called in, like they've touched on it all. It's just it's such boring football. It's just played along the back line. And that's why every team we play, it doesn't matter if it's a bottom table team, it's always so close because it's just played along the back line. And that's why I think, like, you have players like Chiesa and Illing Jr. and Miretti, they struggle because it's such static football. No one's moving. You know what I mean?
I I agree, and that's actually good you bring that up because nobody's moving. I said it a couple of minutes ago, maybe half an hour ago, when Allegri post Verona said, or he was asked about the formation change, and he did that for like 10 minutes, and then he switch back again, kind of, or like he didn't do what everybody was actually expecting him to do for the entire game. He said, formation, tactical things, forget about it. We need to be focused. And when he said that, I was like, I mean, that's when you're in trouble, you say we need to go back to the basic, be focused, get together. Like there's all buzzwords and all those things. We were focused up to the Empoli game basically. But the football was kind of the same. Certain players were still struggling. We were winning, so everybody was like, okay, you know what? It's still not good, but you're winning. Now it's time to be flexible. Now it's time, in my opinion, to make a change and show, you know what? I'm on 9 million euros a season. I'm going to switch things up. I think that's the biggest criticism. And I think that's why a lot of people want him out. Because points wise, with this team, you can say, you know what? He's getting the max out of it in his own way. But is he getting the max out of certain players? And for me, the
Yeah,
answer is no.
no, absolutely not. And I just feel like, we're complaining about the individual performance of the players, but I feel like players like Chiesa, like I'm nervous because I love Chiesa and I'll defend him till the ends of the earth, but I don't want him to leave the club because like you're setting him up for failure. You're setting him up for failure. You're setting all these players, you have so many wingers in a wing back formation, and you're setting them up for failure because you're asking them to perform miracles for you. And that's all it is. It's miracles and individual brilliance. And maybe I'm being extreme by saying that, but it's like even if you want to keep a three back, okay, play 3-4-3 and have even Chiesa on the right and Yildiz on the left. I try something different. It's just I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't know why he keeps playing 3-5-2. I know we don't have fullbacks, but we gotta try to make the most out of the attackers because we're not. I don't know. It's just I don't know what to say really. We're tying bottom table teams, and then our strategy near the end of the game is just okay. We're tied now. Sub Milik on and go for corners, go for headers, scrape a penalty shot. I don't. It's terrible.
It is chaotic. I think like if somebody needs to clip that entire second half, subwise in a compilation, maybe R&B comps can do that. You make compilations about the subs he made in that Udinese game. I was watching that and I was like, I was so confused. Like I was so confused. It was all over the place, and I was like, I'm not sure what you're trying to do because he switched up so many things in such a short amount of time, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. He was making it worse and worse, and I was like, oh, that's too much. I think he needs to make a change at the start of the game, and I think Yildiz is that's a big talking point. You're gonna leave one of them out as well. He played him for 10 minutes, but did we learn anything out of that 10 minutes? No. Like we didn't learn anything from those 10 minutes. I cannot recall them linking up all three in those 10 minutes. So that's one of those decisions. And the other decision is Alcaraz. Now, he played 30 minutes. He didn't had a lot of touches, but the few touches he had, it made it very obvious why I think Giuntoli wants to bring him in because he has something, or his style is completely different to Rabiot and McKennie. Not Locatelli because he's not going to replace Locatelli.
Yeah,
Sunday.
I agree with that, and
Should
and
he
I
play?
think that even in the summer, if we get Samartic, Alcaraz and Samartic are going to be very similar. Like I watched the few minutes that Alcaraz gets now, and I love what I see. Even the last game, I don't know if you remember, he did that beautiful through ball to Rabiot, and then Rabiot crossed it into Vlahovic. Like that was the best play all game.
Yeah, it
And
was.
and it's just I don't know why he's not playing. I feel like Allegri wants older players, and it's almost like he wants them to play like a robot, just play simple and just pass it back every time.
It looks very controlled. Like that moment, with that through ball on Rabiot, I was like, haven't seen that probably all season, or I cannot recall that all season because I'm so used to McKennie picking up the ball, taking too many touches and playing it sideways. Same for Rabiot. It's very slow, it's very predictable, and when you're chasing games, it's pretty useless in my opinion. It really is. And when he did that, I'm like, I don't know if he's really good because it's a little cameo. However, on Sunday against Frosinone, he should be in the lineup. There should be no debate about it. You need to give Alcaraz a fair shot. It's against Frosinone at home. I want to say you should be beating them. You should, but looking at the last results, maybe I'm a bit too cocky here. But if you don't play him at home against Frosinone from the first minute, then what's the point? It's March. Like next week it's almost March. Next week it is March actually.
Mhm.
So what is the point? Like, when are we going to see him? If you're not going to see him now, like, what is there left to play for? Like, I don't think if you play Alcaraz, that's the reason you're going to not win against Frosinone. I think he should be getting a fair shot. I don't think he's going to get it against Frosinone. I
No,
think he will play Rabiot and McKennie again. And
even if he does play, he's not going to shine under Allegri. And I think that, and I know you touched on you guys touched on Yildiz before. Him and Yildiz can work together so well, like in the right formation. I feel like, because I feel like Yildiz, whether you play him on the left or you play him behind the striker, Yildiz is like so technically strong. I feel like he can play as like a dummy and open up the space, and then Alcaraz will always see that through ball. He'll split the defense every time, and I just feel like if you play the right way, attacking football, like I feel like they can work really well together. Because
I
there's certain aspects of this team that are okay, you can work with that, but it's just they're not implementing the right strategies. I feel like.
yeah, I have the same feeling. Like, watching certain players, I'm like, you're not gonna shine in this formation. And actually, other players like Kostic, who is playing, you're also not gonna shine. But I see why he's playing you in this formation. I see why he's playing you. It's not right because you're not really up for it. You're not um, performing to that standard. And I think when I look at like Kostic is a good example. I don't hate Kostic because when we signed him that summer, the first thing I said on this channel is like, I know what he is. Crosses and assists. He will get you that.
Yeah.
Last season, he did that. It's not happening this season. And like I said early on, it's work rate. When I need to talk about work rate, I know you're not having a good season. And I want to see Junior, but I think also Junior will not show his full potential in 3-5-2 as a wingback. He will not. Sevilla away last season, 3-5-2 wingback, actually was playing left back that first half, and I remember everybody was killing it. Oh, he's not good moving forward. I'm like, I remember Di Maria that game picking up the ball in our own half, trying to do solo runs in that first half. I'm like, you can play whoever you have. It's just not gonna work. Like, the approach is very safe and it doesn't suit certain players. But the last question for you is, I didn't ask you, so no, I did ask you, but I will spice it up a little bit. I'm not gonna answer that question, but you can. If you move on from Allegri, what do you want, or who do you want, and why?
For me, I'm not picky at all. I just want to see good football, because if you play good football, I think everything will flow from that. Because right now with the football we play, it shows that all the opponents we play, we have no confidence. We have nothing. So in terms of who replaces him, I don't really care. I hear Thiago Motta. I hear Conte. I honestly don't care as long as we play good football. It's that mentality thing, and Allegri's making them play so defensive, and as long as we have a coach that's attacking minded, I think everything will flow from there.
Okay, so it's just like, I think a lot of people just want to have good football, or like, if you're not gonna win stuff, or if you need some time to actually get there, at least make it enjoyable to watch. I think that's the thing. Somebody's saying good football even though we don't win anything. You know what it is? We play dire football now and we're not winning. So, like I said a few seconds ago, if we are building towards something and I can actually see, okay, we're building to something that's very sustainable, I can accept good football and good progress. But at one point, you obviously need to win. Like, I'm not going to give the next coach 5 years or even 3 years. Like, I'm not going to do that as well. But if you can see 3 years in, you're winning games, but you're not anywhere near close to winning a trophy. Also, long term, you don't see the vision, and the football is pretty poor, and I'm being nice here, then what are we really doing, if I'm being completely honest? And especially individual players improving, that's my biggest sticking point. I just don't see a lot of players actually improving. That's my point.
And that's the whole point of the anger that us fans have is 3 seasons and we've seen no progress at all. It's like, okay, we've been talking about 4-3-3 or different formations for 3 years, but all the club has been doing, and I know this is not all Allegri, but you've just been bolstering that 3-5-2, getting a bunch of players that play the same positions. And that's where our anger comes from, is there's been no progress. There's no, even if it wasn't perfect, at least you could see, okay, this is what they're trying to do. Like there's no, I feel like we can't see any idea, and that like uncertainty, this confusion is getting us all upset.
I agree. That last part is is perfectly put. You know, I
Mhm.
think that's what people, it gets people upset and also all over the place. You know, I might say things that are absolutely not factually correct. You know, but it's like a lot of things are based on feelings. You know, because if you look at stats, a lot of stats speak in favor of Allegri. You know, if you
Mhm.
just look at the straight analytics. But if you go deeper into it and you want to have progress and you want to see a certain brand because you believe that is more sustainable than this, then it will look very bad, you know. But you also have a big part of the fan base who's like, you know what, he's getting the max out of it, which I agree, but in his own way. He sets up in a way, and with this way, he's getting the max out of it. I fully agree with that. However, I still believe you can go a different direction. But
Absolutely.
that's, I think that's a big sticking point. But we will see. We will see what Juntali is going to do. Thanks for calling
Mhm.
in. Pleasure having you on, and hopefully again in the future.
Sure, man. Thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks. Okay, that was it for today. Thanks everybody who actually did call in. A lot of people did call in. Like I said, I'm gonna plan to do this show once a week. So a call-in show once a week. Probably gonna be, depending on when we play, but it's probably gonna be Monday or Wednesdays. So keep that in mind. If you haven't liked the video, like and subscribe because we're on road to 5K as well. I have a video out tomorrow. I will be not live tomorrow. I'll be live on Reno's channel, so you can check that out. I will be live again on Wednesday. But let's see what will happen in the next couple of days. You know, there's the news that Juntali had talks with Allegri, um, which makes a lot of sense. You know, and it has nothing to do with the results lately. Just in general, you need to set your your goals for next season as well a little bit. You need to have a clearer picture of what actually is going to happen. But the next couple of weeks, I know it feels like we have nothing to play for, but we still need to win that Coppa Italia. It's not going to make up for everything, I think, but it's going to make up for quite a lot because we haven't won in a while. And we cannot, absolutely not fail in the Coppa Italia. So the next couple of weeks is build up to the Coppa Italia semi-final against Lazio. We need to pick up form, even if it's the old form where you're just rock solid and you just nick games. If that's what it, if that's what it need, like what it takes to actually get the Coppa Italia over the line for Allegri, then it is what it is, you know. But he cannot end the season with not winning the Coppa Italia, especially not now that Inter are out of it. Uh, who else is out of it? Milan, is Milan out of it? I think, you know, and the club's still in it. You're better than those clubs. You should be winning it. So that's what we have to play for, moving forward the next couple of weeks. But again, people, everybody, thanks for joining. Thanks for calling in to all the people. And I will see you guys in the next show. Ciao. Have a good evening.